What we're going to do now is I'm going to run at the camera. We've got the Z6s set to high continuous, and we've got the new autofocus, the new firmware. Will there be any difference? All right, Joe, you let me know when I'm going. Who knew I could move that fast, people? I know that was like a gazelle in the African wilderness. G'day everybody, how you going today? It is so good to see you. Oh, there's so much going on at the moment, and I'm just going to do this emergency Nikon news flash. But I've been packing tons and tons of calendars. All of the pre-orders for my calendars are finally going out. Thank you so much to everybody. This is like box number 5 of 8 boxes. So if you pre-ordered, it's on its way. Not only is it an exciting day for my calendar, but also Nikon have announced firmware updates that perhaps some people thought were never going to come. So this is a bit of a surprise, a bit of a shock, but the Z50, the Z5, the Z6, the Z7, the 70-200, all getting firmware updates. How exciting is this? Well, let's have a little bit of a look at it. This was not necessarily going to happen. The Z50, the Z5, the Z6 and the Z7, as well as the WR1 and the 70-200, all getting firmware updates on the same day. That's not the part that they thought wasn't going to happen, that it was going to happen on the same day. The part that they thought wasn't going to happen is, were we going to get any more AF improvements, mostly in the Z6 and the Z7? That's the camera, I think, that's out there more than any other because, well, they were the first two. And indeed, in this firmware update, we are now roughly 3 years, almost exactly actually 3 years into the life cycle of the Z6 and the Z7, and Nikon are still supporting these cameras. I want to dive into these firmware updates. They are a surprise. It is great to see them here, along with the 70-200 update, which I think is a really intriguing one. And this was something that I actually talked about with a friend of mine something like 6 months ago, that wouldn't it be cool if you could do this with these lenses? Well, it looks like it is, I think, if I understand what I'm reading. So let's first jump into version 2.2 of the Z50. And what we have here is adaptability for the F to Z version 2, along with the 24-120. By the sounds of it, the 24-120 is going to be the next lens that we will see, because they're putting compatibility into all of these cameras for that lens. So if they need to put compatibility into all of these cameras for that lens, does that mean a Z6 II and a Z7 II firmware update can't be far away, just simply to have adaptability, usability with the 24-120, let alone the 100-400, which I can imagine is not too far away either? Interesting. This might just be the start of something special that's coming. Along with added support for the F to Z 2 and the 24-120, we also have improved face eye detection performance and the visibility of subjects in pictures taken using an optional flash unit. Let's jump over to the Nikon Z5 version 1.2 firmware. Added support for the F to Z version 2 as well as for the 24-120, and again improved face eye detection performance and the visibility of subjects in pictures taken using an optional flash unit. Now to the bigger changes, the part we've all been waiting for the Z6 and the Z7. Well, when I say all, many. Nikon Z6 firmware version 3.40. Added support for the F to Z2 and the 24-120. Okay, flicker is less likely to appear in the display during filming when N-Log or RAW footage is recorded to external HDMI video recorders at low light levels. Well, I haven't experienced that because I haven't done the RAW footage conversion to my Z6. Probably won't now, considering the Z9 is coming sometime. Improved eye detection performance for auto area AF and wide area AFL. Now, I suspect this is going to be one of the biggest changes that we will see to the Z6 and the Z7. That does need to be tested. I did manage to get two Z6s and do a test of the difference between the two firmware editions just for a bit of fun. This is what it looked like. And I did decide to rush out and test it, and on the left is the Z6 with the previous firmware, and on the right is another Z6 with the new firmware. The Z6 with the new firmware drags me into focus at this point and maintains focus from this point on. It's only here that the old Z6 firmware picks me up. Even then, I'm not sure I'm exactly in focus until the very end. Improved eye detection. That's great. They are talking about improved autofocus for these 3-year-old cameras. When does the box disappear off my face on the camera on the right? And when does eye detect appear on the camera on the left? This one over here for you guys. It can be clearly seen that the camera on the right, which has the new firmware, the latest firmware, is absolutely behaving differently in regards to finding the eye and marking the eye out. This is very exciting. This will be complicated, but anyhow, there it is. So that's one of the differences. Increased the refresh rate for the focus point displayed during face eye detection and subject tracking AF. So that's the little box that flies around on things. Nikon have made it faster, because one concern that people had was that the box is not keeping up, so the device is not keeping up. Then we were basically told, no, the device is keeping up. It's actually just the box that's not keeping up, the redraw of the box. So here, where it's being stated that the redraw of the box, the speed of that has been increased. Again, testing will show us how much so, I suppose. And there will be many that do that. I look forward to it very, very much. Improved face eye detection performance and the visibility of subjects in pictures taken using an optional flash unit. Is that the little beam? This is what they were talking about in the Z50 and the Z5. Maybe that's what it's all about, the little IR beam that fires out. And then there's a couple of little minor bug fixes. Fixed the following issues. The camera would sometimes stop responding when auto was selected for the set picture control in the photo shooting menu. The camera would sometimes exceed the value selected for ISO sensitivity, maximum sensitivity in the movie shooting menu. These are two bugs that I never came across. Great that they're being fixed. So that is it for the Z6. And just having a very quick look at the Z7 firmware version 3.4. It indeed appears to have exactly the same changes. Absolutely identical. These two cameras are the same camera. We've got the settings exactly the same to the best of our knowledge. We've got the same lenses, although I do not have the latest firmware on my 24-70. But anyway, it's really interesting. I do definitely think there are improvements. So let's jump onto the 70-200 2.8 VRS firmware version 1.2. Now, the camera and lens VR are synchronized for improved vibration reduction. Synchro VR. So this is where the VR in the lens and the in-body image stabilization in the camera work in concert to give you an even better outcome. Now, it's not stated here what the improvement is. I think with the Z9 they're talking about 6 or 6.5 stops of IBIS on top of what I think was 5 or 5.5. So we may be getting an extra stop. But I did read an article recently where Canon and Sony, I think it was, were claiming higher VRs than, or higher stabilization than Nikon. But the Nikon was tested and Nikon claims lower numbers, but the Nikon actually ended up being higher than stated, and the Canon and the Sony ended up being lower than stated. So anyway, these numbers are getting higher and higher all the time, and this is super exciting stuff. And another thing that's of great interest to me is when an option other than non-linear is selected in the custom setting F9 focus ring rotation range, the focus ring responds linearly to focus changes between the minimum focus distance and infinity, regardless of the speed with which the ring is rotated. So this is great because it basically means you can turn it and it's just going to go at a speed. Now, I don't know if that's a set speed or a speed that you can change. But from my perspective, I think this is something that would be great for videographers to get just smooth focus changes, which is just great from my perspective. Also, fixed an issue that in rare instances would result in hybrid autofocus halting at the minimum focus distance during contrast detect AF. Again, a bug that I have never experienced. And then finally we have the Nikon, the WR1 version 1.04, which added support for the Z9. When used with the Z9, the product supports display and selection of shutter speeds as fast as 1/32,000th. Try to say that in a hurry, 1/32,000th. So that is super cool. So there we go. This is just a quick one. My analysis of this is how fabulous that Nikon are still supporting these older cameras, especially the absolutely oldest ones, the Z6 and the Z7. They are giving iterative focus improvements. We're yet to know how much or how big or what a difference it is, but I think it's great that they're actually throwing resources at it. Of course, this leaves room now for the Z6 II and the Z7 II updates, which so many people are going to be super excited about to see what can Nikon do with those two processors. How much more can they give us? Clearly, we've just gotten more for the Z6 and the Z7, so I think it pretty much goes without saying. With two processors instead of one, we are definitely going to see more for the Z6 II and the Z7 II. It's just a matter of time. It's certainly not going to be a Z9. We all know that with that recent statement that those processors, the Z9 processor is 12 times faster. But anyway, that doesn't mean there's not a whole lot in between and a whole lot more that can be done. Super exciting. Now, order yourself a calendar and then I can pack it for you and stick it in there. Link below to my website. We send them all around the world. How cool is that? I've sent them to today, Italy, Sweden, the UK, the USA, New Zealand, anywhere else? Did I say Germany? Lots of places. So I just want to thank everybody so much for your superb support. I'm really proud of this year's calendar. It's the 19th year that I've been doing it, and it's all been shot. This particular year has all been shot on the Z system, and you can really see it excel in all sorts of different lighting conditions with this calendar. All right, well, please let me know in the comments below all your thoughts about what is going on with this firmware. What do you think will be coming for the Z6 II and the Z7 II? If this is your first time here, I would love to see you again, so please do subscribe, please share, and please like, and I look forward to seeing you very soon. Okay, bye for now. We now have new firmware for the Z6 and the Z7, and well, we're going to test the previous one with the new one right here in this amazing spot.
Let's do it!